Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our second session. So we'll start now. I'm gonna share my screen. Just give me a moment. Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to the second session of the Java programming course by Ciphering the Future. I think some of you guys are new here and were transferred from the Python course. So I'm gonna say hello, welcome. My name is Sarah Al Langari, and I'm gonna be the instructor for this course. And yeah, okay, so let's start. First of all, I'd like to do a quick recap about the stuff we took last time and also do the homework examples. So just open this here. Okay. So basically last session, what we took were the variables, like Java math and then string methods and also printing it. So first of all, let's go through the variables. So we have string. And string is basically for a piece of text. So you can do string name equals say name. So Sarah. And then you obviously have to close it off with a semicolon. And so that's the variable type, which is a string. Next we have an integer. An integer is basically any number that's a whole number. So it can't have a decimal place at all. It can be 16.2. It can be 1, 2, 3, 4, but it has to be a whole number. You have to make sure. And then we also have a double. So in a double you can put decimal numbers. So let's say double B equals 5.3, for example. But it can be many more. It could be 5.38, or so it can have many decimal places. Which an integer cannot do. And then next we have a char, which is a character basically. Basically you can just put one letter. It's basically just a letter. But for characters, you have to put them through single quotes. So it's unlike a string, because in a string they have to be double quotes. You have to make sure that whatever you want your text to be, it has to be through in between double quotes. Whereas for the char, it has to be through single quotes, right? What we also took was printing. So to print, you do system.out.println. And inside you can for example, we want to print the variable name. So you can just print that. And if you run it, there you go. I'll also send this in the chat. I completely forgot. If you guys want to complete, unless you've downloaded Eclipse, then I'd say probably just open it. We'll get into that in a bit though. So yeah, basically that's the gist of it. Now we can go quickly do the homework. So let me just pull it up. The homework was 2 questions, and I'd like to thank the people who did it. You guys did a good job. So first one was basically to create 2 variables, and we named them length and width. So length equals, let's say 10, and then let's say that width will equal 3. So basically what we want to do is that we want to print the area of a rectangle. So for example, these are the measurements for our imaginary rectangle. So what you can do is also you can do int area equals length and width. So since area is length and width, and then you can print it out. So system.out.println area. And so this will basically print the answer, which should be 30. So the area is 30. Next, we have task 2. You can put this in comments so that it's still there. You guys can see if you want. Okay, so next we can do task 2. Task 2 was to basically create a program that prints your name, age, hobby, and your favorite subject. And you have to use variables, and I gave an example of output. So let's just start off. So first of all, we want to store our name in a variable. So the variable would be string because it's text. So string name equals Sarah. Sarah. And then we would do my age next. So int age equals 16. and then also a hobby. So hobby is also a string because it's text. Hobby equals like, let's say reading. And then the next thing is favorite subject. So string fav like subject equals, say, math. Okay. Next, I wanted it to like output this, but like in the form of it saying hello, like my name is this, and then I am this years old. My hobby is that, and then my favorite subject is that. So that's what we're gonna do now. So system.out. So you can say, hello, my name is, and then you add the variable because that's what the task told you to do. Let's just like copy this so it's much easier. Okay, so here we can say, okay, so I am age, and then you use a plus to like combine it together, basically. Years old. Then you can say my hobby is, and then add then your hobby. And then the last one, my favorite, and then you add the variable fav subject. Okay, and then it should print them out. Okay, so hello, my name is Sarah. That's what we stored in the string. Basically, the whole task was pretty simple. And now we can go back, finish. We can go back and like learn the new session, about the new session. Oh yeah, so for everyone who downloaded Eclipse, if you didn't download it, like please download it like today after the session, because if you do it now, it might take some time and you might like lose some parts. But if you want to take notes, because right now I'll teach you like how to make a project in Eclipse so that you can so that you can write some code in it. So first of all, you open Eclipse. Okay, so what you want to do is, if you see up here, there's going to be like file. But file, you press new, you go to new. And then new, you go to Java project. So you're going to create a new Java project. That's where you're going to store like all your code. So you create a new Java project. And then here you can like name it whatever you want. You can be like, I don't know, so CTF course, for example. So that's the name of this project. So you press finish. In this project, you have to have like a package, and inside of the package, there's going to be a class. So to make a new package, you basically like double click on it, and then you go to new. From new, you go down to this button here. So that's package, and you press on it, and then you can, if you want, you can name it something, but really doesn't really matter for right now. So you can just press finish. And then, so when you go here, you see this package, you press new, then you have to create a class. So a class is basically like where you write your code. There can be multiple classes in a project, so that's what we're gonna first do, because you need a class so that you can write. Like I said in the last session, you write your code in like the main class, so that's mainly what you're gonna do. So here you can name it. So here you can name it like, I don't know, whatever you want. So session 2, for example. And then if you want, okay. If you want, press public static void main. This is just gonna like initially just type like the whole code for like the main class. So you don't have to. So it's much easier. So just press that, and then finish, and then you have your class, and you can basically type everything here. If you guys need more help, then just like tell me, and like I'll assist you. Okay. So, okay, so now there's something called the program development cycle, which I explained last session, but it's really important because it will really help you with the project you're going to do at the end of the course. So I'll just like briefly explain it right now. First of all, you have to design your program. You have to think about like what you want to add to it. What do you want it to be about? What do you want it to do? So after you're done just like mentally thinking about it and maybe like writing it on pen and paper, you can go to the next step, which is writing the code. Writing the code is basically like what we're learning right now. So it's just like typing in all the functions, all the statements, like the methods, and basically like manually and physically doing your idea. After you write the code, you have to correct the syntax and errors. So the syntax is basically like the rules of Java. So the program won't run unless the syntax is working and it's correct. After that, you have to test your program, and then you see if it's like working. And after that, you can correct logic errors. Logic errors are basically, so with logic errors, the program will still run, unlike syntax errors. But logic errors are basically like, oh, did your program work the way you intended it to? Is there maybe a more efficient way? So that's basically logic errors. And then you basically go back through the whole cycle. So yeah. Okay, so first of all, we're going to learn about Scanner. And Scanner is something really interesting. It really opens up a lot of opportunities for like projects and stuff. And basically, for Scanner, you can take input from a user. So basically, you can ask the user to type something and then you can work on it from there. Um, so this is basically an example. You have to remember that first of all, in Java, you have to import it. So you have to write at the top before the for the main class. You have to write import java.util.scanner because scanner is a method that like someone made it before. So you have to basically import it. Okay, so first of all, if you can see in this first line, you have to like create a variable of the type scanner. So if you see here, this is something like I named it. So I named it KB, like as in like keyboard. So here the variable KB is being assigned to be equal to a new scanner. So the scanner is the constructor of the scanner class. And if you see here inside the parenthesis, you are putting system.in as like a parameter. So basically we're creating an object that reads data from system.in. Now, so system.in basically points to the keyboard, and we already know system.out, which we learned, which is basically like usually for printing and to like display something on the screen. So now this object, it basically can be used to read data from the keyboard, right? So that's then you basically print what you want to ask the user to type in. And then after that, you will create basically a variable to store what the user wrote, as you can see here. So the variable is a string. If you wanted them to write a string, you like make the variable string. Maybe you wanted them to write an integer, then here you'd write integer. So the string and then the name of your variable, and then equals, and here this is like the variable like of the type scanner here. So you have to write this and then dot next, and this part actually depends on what type of variable it is. So it could be, if it was an int, for example, it would be like dot next int. This is actually shown here. So these are basically the input methods to read like specific types from the keyboard. Ignore like when it says here input, input, input. This is basically just this is basically similar to the KB. So it's basically the same as the KB over here. So these are like just what you do for each variable type. To read a string, you can do next or like next line. But for me, like next line is like, I can understand it more because like, oh, line is in a string. Maybe like I won't get confused. So that's like why I usually type next line. And so when you call one of these methods, the program will pause execution and it basically waits for the user to enter a value. And then the entered value will be returned by these like methods, basically. And so as you can see here, like, okay, dot next int to read an integer, and then double to read a double. And basically it does the same for like every single thing. You see dot next float and then Boolean and all that. So let's like do like simple examples. So if you go here, let me just make this a bit bigger. So first of all, you have to import java.util.scanner, because without it, basically it won't work. It'll give you an error, be like, I don't identify this scanner. What do you mean scanner? Because it didn't import it before. So I have to import it first, and then you write it at the top here before like everything starts. Please remember that like scanner is capital S, because I get mixed up sometimes. So yeah. So then we'll create like a scanner object. Let's call it input. Equals new scanner system.in. Okay. Then we can do, okay. Then you can like ask the user maybe to like say their name. So system.out.println. What is your name? Let's ask them for their name. And then here, so basically, like now the user will be able to like type it in, but you want to store that because maybe you want to like talk about it later or like bring it up later. So you can say string name equals input dot next line. Basically that stores what they said. So system dot out. Here maybe you want to say, oh, welcome name. So it could be welcome name. So if we run this, one second, something is wrong with what I wrote here. Now you guys can like have the opportunity to actually do this. I think I sent like the online compiler. You can use scanner there as well. If you want, I'll put an example on the screen. Like just make 2 or 1 like Java scanner example. You can read like a string or a double, like anything you want, and then like try to store the value inside a variable like we just did, and then print it. If you want, perform arithmetic, but that's like, it's a bit complex. So yeah. Try to use a lot of what you learned last class as well, and then see what errors you might get. So just like 2 examples and stuff like that. I'll put this example on the screen right now. Just a second. I'll explain this part again if you want. Okay, I'll explain it again. My apologies, I didn't see that, but okay. So, okay, first of all, we have to create a variable of the type scanner, right? So scanner, and then let's say like input equals new scanner system dot in. And then after that, we want to let's say we want to ask the user for their name. So we can say system.out.println. Here you're basically asking the user to like type their name so that they know like what is meant from them to do. So what is your name? And then we want to like store their input into like into a variable. So you say, so since they're typing their name, you know that's a string. So you write string name equals input, which is this dot next line. You can see here it says like string for scanner, basically. And then maybe like you want to reply to them and say, oh, welcome to whatever. So you can say, oh, welcome, and then plus their name. And maybe you want to add like a little exclamation point. So yeah, so if you see here down below in the console, so we say, what is your name? Sara, welcome Sara, and like works for anything else basically. And yeah. I don't think there's much time to give you guys the chance to do it again, but we'll like see more examples later on. Oh, the package part. Okay, why is it not working exactly? Okay, do you want to share your screen or something, or do you like? Actually, Dana, if you now can open the online compiler, just like for like this session, and then like after, I'll help you with it because I don't want to like take up too much time. This might take some time. So if that's all right, because yeah, okay. So let's complete the course. Okay, so next are if-else statements, and these are like very crucial to every programmer. They're super useful, and you can use them in like a lot of things. It's very useful for your project, like everything else. So basically in Java, an if-else statement is a conditional statement that allows you to execute like different blocks of code, depending on like whether the condition is true or false. And so you can see like the syntax over here. So if like, and then here you add any condition you want. And so if this condition is true, the code will be executed. Else, and this is else is basically if the condition is false and it's not true. So it's for all other scenarios or conditions. So this code will be executed. And so as you can see here, this is something different because here we're not using semicolons for the else and if statements. Instead, we're using like these curly brackets to open and then close them and then open a new one and then close a new one. So basically, this is like how you tell the computer that all the code that will be executed for this condition will be between these two curly brackets. Yeah. Oh, okay. So wait, let me do some more practice here. So, okay. Let's say, for example, you want to see like if a number is greater than 10. So here you'd use an if-else statement. So you say int x, let's like give this a random number like 15, okay? And then here you want to start your if-else statement. So if, and then you put this in your condition in between parentheses. So if x is greater than 10, okay, if x is greater than 10, and then you open the bracket. Maybe you want to print out, oh, like this number is greater than 10. So you x plus is greater than 10. And then we want to open an else, and then else is like for everything else. As you can see, for the else, you don't have the opportunity to add your own condition. We'll learn more about that like in like a few minutes. So else, like you can print out system. So x is less than or equal to 10 actually, because we didn't like tell the computer, we didn't use a greater than or equal to operator here. So it could be equal to 10. So therefore it'll come out here. So if we run it, it prints 15 is greater than 10. We can change it and like we can say, okay, let's make it 4. It's going to say 4 is less than or equal to 10. But we can say it's 10. So yeah, 10 is less than or equal to 10. Okay, so let's like do another example. And this one is like pretty practical. So like an example of this would basically be like getting your driver's license or being eligible to get a driver's license. So usually you have to be 18 to get one, right? So here we can use an if-else statement because there's practically no other condition. It's either you're 18 or you're over 18 or you're younger than 18 and you're not, obviously. So we can say that if you're 18 years old and over, you can get a driver's license. Else, so that's the condition that happens when your condition is false, you can't get one. And so let's basically manually program this really quick. So int age, since that's what like we're looking at and comparing, let's say the age is like 16. And then we want to start our if statement. So if the age is greater than or equal to 18, let's print that you can get. You are eligible for a driver's license. And then we have else, because else is if you're younger than that. So I'll print ln, you are not eligible. Pretty sure I spelled that wrong, but that's not the point over here for driver's license. Okay, so here we said that the age is 16. So yeah, it's telling us we're not eligible, but we can say that we're 18. And it says, yeah, you are eligible for a driver's license. So that's basically like really cool and really quick, and that's how it works. But maybe like you want to ask the user for their age. So we can use what we just learned, which is scanner, and implement this here. So we can do scanner input equal new scanner system button. And let's ask the user for their age. What is your age? Okay, now let's put in a variable. So you can see here I'm using int, unlike what we used to do before when we used string, because that was for some text. So here we used int, not line. Yeah. And so here we made it based on what the user said. So let's try this out. So what is your age? Let's say they're like 12. I don't know. So here, yeah, it says you're not eligible for a driver's license. Let's say they're like 23. So, yep, you're eligible for a driver's license. Let's do another example. Let's try like, we want to see if a number is either odd or even. So, okay. Let's see if a number is basically odd or even. And if you remember from last class, we can use this using the modulus operator. That was an arithmetic operator we used, and it basically finds the remainder. So first of all, let's just do a random number. Let's say like 10. 10 is a nice number, I guess. Int number 10, and then we want to find the remainder. So we're going to make a variable for the remainder. So remainder number, and then modulus 2, because you want to divide it by 2 to see if it's odd or even. And then now we can start our if-else statement. Okay, so call ends in 15 minutes. It's okay. So if the remainder, which is this variable, is equal to 0, and you see here we don't use this type of equal, we use double equals, because that's what you use for like the comparison type, for comparison operators. So if this remainder is equal to 0, system let's say number is even, else number is odd. So we can, so yeah, you see here, it said, oh, 10 is even, right? But you can do 9, and 9 is odd, obviously. So yeah, that's a if-else like example. Let's like quickly do this. It's just a quick fill in the blanks. So basically we want the program to print yes if x is equal to y. Otherwise we want it to print no. So just like type in what you would write here and then what you write here, what you write here. Anyone have an idea? It's pretty like, it's basically the same as what we did here. So we use an if-else statement. Okay, well, I'll quickly show you the answer. Basically, okay, Dana, you're mostly right, But here we said we want it if it's equal to y, if x is equal to y, so not greater than. So in this case, you'd use like equal. Yeah. So yeah, basically that's the answer. If x is equal to y, then we're going to print yes. Else we're going to print no. Okay, next is else if. You know how I told you that else, like, you can't add another condition? What if you want to add like more conditions? You want to add 2 or 3 or like many more. So this is when you use an else if statement. So as shown in the presentation here, the else if statement is used to specify a new condition to test if the first condition is false. It basically looks like this. So this is the first condition, you put in parentheses, and then the block of code that will be executed. And then here you start the else if condition, then your second condition, and then this will be executed if this one's false. But then the else is basically if all of the other conditions that you stated before were not able to be executed. Okay, so let's do a quick example. Let's say there's a number and you want to see if it's greater than 10, 20, or 30. Okay, that's pretty simple. So let's say like, I don't know, 23. Our number is 23. So if number is greater than 30, so this is our first condition, right? Then system, so you say number and then so this is our first condition, right? The number is greater than 30, it will print out, okay, it's greater than 30. And then now we use else if for our second condition. Number is greater than 20. Open your brackets. This is greater than 20. And then else if number, so here we're not using the else just yet because the number might be greater than 10. Or like the number might be less than 10. So yeah, so number is greater than 10. And then now we use the else statement, and this is basically for all the numbers that are less than 10. So you do is less than 10. So let's just run this really quick. So yeah, 23 is greater than 20. You can change it and make it like 43. Should print out it's greater than 43, and let's make it 3. We'll just print out it's less than 10. You have to remember that when you like typically write these, you want to make sure that it's like in order because it goes like linearly through all of these. So first you'll see if this one's true, and if it's not, it'll go to this one, and then go to this one, go to this one. So it wouldn't work if you just say, oh, you want to do like the 10, so number is greater than 10 here, and then under it, number is greater than 20. Because obviously, like, what if you have 22? Obviously, it's going to be greater than 10. So the computer would be like confused and maybe do it wrong. But we can also use this for like grading systems. And this actually may be similar to what like school used to submit like their grades. So we could use like the following code for to grade students on a scale of 1 to like 100. So let's say let's give someone the grade of like 86. So if the grade is greater than or equal to like 90, we'll say like that's an A. So system, I want to print out A. Let's just copy this because it's very tedious. You keep having to write this long line just to print something out. Else if like the grade is greater or equal to 80, we'll say that that's a B. And then let's do another condition. Let's make it like only 3. For now, grade is like greater than 70. Let's say that this person will get a C. Let's say anything under a C is like a fail. So else, we'll print out an F. So this person, we're expecting that they're going to get a B, right? And yep, that's what the computer tells us. So let's say like 96. So they should get an A now. Let's say they got a 6 out of 100. Yep, there you go, there you get an F. So that is like another example of how it could be used in the real world. This is another fill in the blanks question. So basically what they want to do is they want to print 1 if x is equal to y, so equal. And then print 2 if x is greater than y here. So that's the second condition, right? And then for the last one, or like otherwise, they want to print 3. So yeah, so basically what are the answers? Does anyone know? Yeah. Okay, so yep, Dana, you got it right. It's first here if, and then equal, and then here else if because they're adding another condition. Then lastly else because otherwise all the other scenarios. So yeah. Okay, then there's something called shorthand if else. You won't take too much time on this. It's basically just to make like a shorter if else statement, but this is like without else if. So it's only like if or else. You can't add any other conditions, and it's basically like one line, pretty short, pretty simple. So you can see here, so the variable, like as you can see here, like the result equals, and then here's where you put the condition, and then like a question mark, like is the condition true? Is it false? And then here, so first of all, you write what would happen if the condition is true, and then you put the colon, and then here's what you write, like if the condition is false. And so this is an example. And this is basically the same like licensing example that we're using because there's a yes or there's a no. So let's say the person's age is 20. So here we're writing like our if else statement, shorthand if else. So this is a result. We're saving like all of this as a string, which is result, because it's going to be either this or this, right? So here we're saying, okay, is their age greater than or equal to 18? Question mark, like, is it? If it is, for this expression, if the expression is true, then print can get license. But if it's false, print you cannot get a license basically. And then here is basically they're printing out the result to the user. We can let's just like try the same exact thing like right now just to see like just to show you how it works. So age, let me just type this really quick. Equals, and then here you say so in the parentheses you will write your your condition. So age is greater than or equal to 18 question mark, and then you write you are eligible. I think I spelled that wrong as well, but you are not eligible. And then yeah, so here you close it off with a semicolon. But yeah, so yeah, let's print it out because we want to see what's gonna happen. There's something wrong with my Eclipse. I think it needs to be updated or something. But okay, basically what you can imagine what happened is gonna print like something out. I'll just quickly show this here. If you want. Yeah, so here you can see it says, oh yeah, you are eligible. So you can get. So that's basically shorthand if else. It's just a shorter version, but yeah. Then there's something called switch statements. So instead of writing many if else, it's like you can use the switch statements. So it basically selects one of many code blocks to be executed. So it allows you to execute one statement from multiple conditions. So it's like an if-else ladder statement. And here, like the syntax is shown on the screen. So first you have your first case for like condition, and then here you're at the code block, and then break. Break is basically it just switches out of the block. So it just like changes to the next one. And so basically stops the execution of more code and case testing inside the block. And then when a match is found and the job is done, it's time for a break. And so there's no need for like more testing. And so basically the switch expression is evaluated once. So the value of the expression is compared with the values of each case. And if there's a match, the associated block of code will be executed. And then like, okay, so the break and default codes, they're like optional, but yeah. And then, oh yeah, so the default keyword basically specifies some code to run if there's no case match. So it's kind of similar to like the else statement. So it's like, oh, like an else, and then case is sort of like else if or like an if statement. So let's try an example on Eclipse if it will allow me. Okay. So int toss like so string outcome. Okay, so now we're gonna start like our switch. So switch toss. So switch toss, and then we have our first case. Case one. Outcome equals heads. And then break, because we want to like switch out of it. And so break, case 2, outcome equals 2. And then a break. And then we want to do like a default. Default, like outcome equals unknown. I don't know. And then let's, after the switch, let's say system oh yeah, I forgot to put a semicolon in there. Okay, so the outcome of the first toss is heads because we made it 1. You can change it to 2. So we're making the example that determines the outcome of head toss or like a tails toss based on the number here. So if it's case, if the number is 1, if toss is equal to 1, then the outcome will be heads. But if toss is 2, then the outcome will be tails. But if it's anything else, it's going to be unknown. So if you see here, like you say 3, which is not known, it's going to say the outcome of the toss is unknown. Yeah. So we can like add random to this if you want. Like we learned that last class. So for random, you have to import it. You have to import java.util.random because it's also another method that like someone else made. So we can say, okay, so random. So this is how you make one. It's pretty similar to scanner, but you can name this anything you want. I'm just naming it random because I have no idea what else to name it. So new random, and then okay, and then we could say so int toss. Let's make that equal random dot next int 2, and then plus 1. Okay, so basically, okay, what I did here in this line. So, okay, so the line of code, this code, it first generates a random number between 0 and 1, like using this next int method of this random object, and then it adds 1 to the random number. And so this ensures like that the value will be between 1 and 2, because that's what we want it to be. And so basically, and so yeah, it should work now. Yep, so see, randomly just gave us heads. I didn't input any number, just like the computer just did anything random. But okay, it's doing heads for now. Okay, see, now it's tails. Just changed, so it's random and stuff. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so this is an example. and it uses the weekday number to calculate like the weekday name. So let's say the day is 4, so here they're putting like the variable for day, I mean. And so here, if it's day 1, that means print on Monday, day 2, Tuesday, 3, Wednesday, and like so on. And so basically the output, since it's 4, it's going to be Thursday because it's, okay, this is false, this is false, this is false. Oh, this is true, let me print it out. And then break because it's true. So this is a quick fill in the blanks also. There are many of these, but it's really important to like know exactly what where you're supposed to like place everything and what you're supposed to code and stuff. So if anyone wants to like participate and knows like what they might put, just try. Doesn't have to be completely right, but yeah. Yep. Okay. So, yep. Dana got it right. So it's day, and then here the case, because this is the variable basically day that you wanna like do all the conditions on. So yeah, case, and then here is break. So yeah, that's the answer. Okay, now we're getting into like new part. This session has a lot of like heavy material and like really important stuff. So don't worry if you get a bit confused because it'll get easier by practice. Okay, so loops. So loops, from their name, like loop, it loops with something, so it repeats something repetitively, right? So loops just execute a block of code as long as a specified condition is reached. And they're really like useful and handy because they save time, they reduce errors, and they make like the code more readable instead of like continuing to write like multiple like if else statements or continue to printing like, because okay, let's say you want to print like the numbers 1 to 100. Are you gonna like write that, like continue writing that, like okay, system.out.println 1 and then like etc. Loops just make it much more easier, and there are actually two types of loops. So there's a while loop, and then there's a for loop. Oh, okay. So this is basically like how loops work. So they start and like they check the condition. If it's true, it'll do the same, and then it'll go back to checking the condition, and it'll continue doing that until the condition like is checked to be false. So when it's false, okay, it stops execution. Okay, this block of code is done. So we're finished, basically. Basically that's just like how they work. Okay, so while loops. So like I said, there are two types, while loops and for loops. The first one we'll be getting into are while loops. So in Java, a while loop is a control flow statement, and it basically allows code to be executed repetitively until a specified condition is met. So the syntax for a while loop is basically as follows. So here you see like, okay, there's while, or like while loop, and then here you just put the condition. And here is just like the code that has to be executed. So in this slide, this is an example of, so basically, okay, the code in this loop will run over and over again as long as variable I is less than 5. So basically what it's doing right now, it's printing up until from 0 to 4. So you can see here, okay, so they declared an instantiated variable, so int I equals 0. So this variable I is going to be 0. So while, as long as I is less than 5, then print out this, like print out I, the number. So, and then after it prints the number, it's gonna, if you remember this from last class, it's an arithmetic operator. It's basically gonna increment the value I by 1. So I is now gonna be 1. And then it's gonna go back, and then it's gonna see, okay, so 1 is less than 5. Let's continue. Okay, let's print this number I, and then let's increment it again. And it's gonna keep doing that until it's incremented to 5, and like it cannot, like, and this condition is false, basically. Okay, so let me like summarize like the important points about like while loops in Java. So the while loop is a repetitive it's a repetitive statement. So it'll execute the code inside the loop block, as long as the condition is true. And the condition in the while loop must be a Boolean expression. So this means that, okay, so the expression must evaluate true or false. Because when it's false, then it's going to stop, right? And when it's true, it's going to complete like its actions. The code inside the while loop block will be executed at least once. So this is because the condition is evaluated before the code inside the loop block is executed. And then the while loop will terminate when the condition becomes false. So yeah. Then there's something called do while loops. They're basically like a variant of the while loop, and so this loop will execute the code block once before checking if the condition is true, and then it will repeat the loop as long as the condition is true. So the do while loop is similar to the while loop, like I said, but okay, so the difference is that the condition is checked after the code inside the loop block is executed, like I just said. And so this means that the code inside the do while loop block, this one will be executed like at least once. Even if this condition over here is false, because like I said, it goes linearly, so we'll start with this and then that. Okay. Let's do an example of a do while loop block over here. Let's delete all this. Okay. So let's say we have an integer I is equal to 0. This is usually like the typical like starting point. The variable I is usually like used all the time for loops, and you probably like see this if you open like any web page, you see that they use I. So don't get confused or anything. So do then you open the bracket. So system.out.print and then I. So do you want to print the variable I? And then we want to increment it by 1. And after that, okay, so then we're going to do the while block. So while I is less than 5. So as long as I is less than 5, keep like doing this, like keep executing this block of code. So as you can see here, so it counted from 0 to 4. Because, okay, so it's going to print here 0, and then after it prints it, it's going to increment it by 1. So now, okay, 1 is less than 5. And then it's going to go back here, and it's going to print 1. And then it's going to increment again. So similar to the while loop that we just did, but this is just like a variant, like I said. Okay, so can anyone like tell us like what the output is going to be? You don't necessarily have to type it all out, like just say, oh, it's going to do this from this to this. It's very like similar to what I was just explaining in like the example we just did. So I'll explain. Okay, yeah. So like, okay, so Dan already answered, and she's right. It's gonna print out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, since it's starting off with I is equal to 1, and 1 is less than 6, so it's gonna print it out, then increment it. So now I is 2, it's less than 6, and we're gonna print it out, and then now it's 3, it's less than 6, so this is true. Print it out. 4, it's less than 6, so that's true. Okay, print it out. And then 5 is less than 6. Okay, print it out. But then 6 is not less than 6, so it's done. Yeah. Okay. Next up is the second type of loops, which is for loops. And basically, a for loop in Java is a control flow statement, and it allows the code to be executed repeatedly for a specific number of times. So when you know exactly how many times you want to loop through a block of code, use the for loop instead of a while loop. So that's like kind of what differentiates them. So this is basically the syntax for a for loop, as you see over here. So you write for, and then in brackets, you put, okay, the initialization. So this is basically, it sets, practically you set a variable before like the loop starts. So it's executed once before the execution of the code block. So this is executed like as soon as you write it. Well, like as you run it, it's the first thing that's executed. And then here is the condition. So you basically define the condition for executing the code block, and basically it's the condition for the loop to continue running. And then here is basically update. And so it's executed every time. So after the code block has been executed. So yeah, so after this is executed, it goes back here and then it does what this is saying. And obviously it looks at the condition as well. But as you can see here, these like 3 elements, they're separated by a semicolon. So you have to remember to do that. Okay, so this example will basically print the numbers 0 to 4. So if you see here, okay, so 4, here, initialization, they're declaring a variable I. So this integer, I, will first equal to 0. And then they separate it by a semicolon. And then here, they're saying, okay, so our condition is that I should be less than 5 for the loop to continue running and basically executing this block of code. And then the update, or like this statement here, is basically increases the value I, and it increases the value I each time the code block in the loop has been executed. So you could say, okay, so I is equal to 0 now, so it's going to print out 0, and then it's going to go back here and say, oh sorry, and then it's going to say, okay, so now I is 1, so 1 is less than 5, let's print it out. And then I is 2, 2 is less than 5, let's print it out. And so it's just going to keep doing that until it prints out 4 and it reaches 5, because that makes the condition false. So basically that's a for loop. Yeah. Okay, before I get into like these points, let's do like a more complex example on Java. Eclipse. So let's make a program that asks the user for a word. So here we're using scanner, right? And then it outputs the amount of, what's a random letter? Like the amount of A's in that specific word. So this is a really cool, activity. Oops, I forgot I bracket. So okay, so scanner input. So here, as we said earlier today, we're creating a new scanner variable. So system.in, like object. And then let's say, let's ask the user to type in any random word. So please type a word and so on. Okay, type it in. And then let's store their answer into a variable. Okay, so we also want to create a variable called count. So this count, we're going to initiate it as 0. This count is going to count how many times like A was in that word, like the letter A was found inside of that word. And so this is a cool activity. It's gonna mix a lot of what we learned in the other session as well, like the string methods. So yeah. Okay, so now let's go on with our for loop. So we're gonna start off with for. Let's write our condition here. So like the whole thing. So for, and then int, and then we're gonna have a variable called I equals 0. So this I, we want it to go through, like loop through the word, and then find out. Okay, you'll see later. When I type inside of it, but it's basically gonna loop through the word and find like where when an A is located. Then okay, so for and then here's our condition. So I is gonna loop out through like the index, so the number of words, the number of okay, sorry. So it's gonna basically loop through the whole actual word, and it's gonna count like how many letters are in it. So we want to basically to stop at the word length. So word.length, basically, when you use .length, it's basically the amount of letters, or like practically the amount of letters inside of that word. So like the length of that string. And then let's like increment I each time. Oh, I plus plus. Okay. And so here, okay. So in this case, we want to use an if statement, because we want to say, okay, if like the letter A is found, then we want to increment count. We want to say we want this variable count to count it, right? So that we can tell the user how many like A's are in that word. So we could say if, and then we add our condition here. So word dot char at I. I'll explain this in a second. Just equals A. Then count. Okay, so basically here. So this char at method returns the character at the specified index, like this index in the string. So here, okay, so like I said, I is basically is going to loop through the whole world, the whole word. It's basically like a number. It's like the index. So when you use this and we use I, let's say, okay, I is, for example, 2. So since this is 0, this is 1, then this is 2. So E. So it's going to take, so here's going to be E. So is E equal to the letter A? And that's going to be no. So it's basically going to skip this. But let's say, okay, it's 3. So it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so here A. Is A equal to the letter A? Yes. So we're going to continue through this. And then count is going to be incremented by like 1. Oh, by the way, I'm just using a random example. It's not going to go through this exact string. I'm just like using a random example because we haven't like fully finished it yet. But yeah, so it's going to loop through the word and then it's going to see if that equals to this letter over here. And so yeah, so after we use this, so basically right now we're done with it. We just want to like print out to the user like how many letters our computer found. So we're basically just like creating the sentence over here. Okay. It's gonna run that. String. Oops. Oh yeah. Okay, that's an error, my fault. I'm not paying attention. Okay, please type a word. Let's type like actually that has 2 A's. We know as humans, but let's see how the computer does. Okay, so yeah, the word actually has 2 A's. And it basically did that by looking at I. And so this I works at the index. So here, I started at 0. So it looked at A. It said, oh my god, A, that's equal to the letter A. So we're going to count. So we're going to increment count by 1. So now it knows that's, okay, there's 1 A. And then it's going to go throughout the word. And then when it reaches here and it sees that, oh, it's equal to A, it's going to increment it again. And it's going to say, okay, there's 2 A's. We can use another word like, I don't know, what's a word that has a lot of A's? Like, I don't know. Okay, let's just say a random apple. This has 1 A, right? So yeah, it says that there's 1 A. You can say, we don't have to type an actual word. So let's say, okay, yeah, let's say the word academically. That's a good example. Academically has multiple A's. Yeah, so it has 3 A's. So basically, that's like a cute little fun example. And this example comes up a lot in computer science like exams. Usually like tells you to write like a pseudocode or a code example, a program that basically goes through and like a string or a text and says how many letters or certain letters are in it. So good job. You worked on a question from exams. So that's really cool. Okay, so yeah, let's summarize the important points for loops. So, okay, yeah, the for loop is a repetitive statement. It'll execute the code inside the loop block a specific number of times. The initialization, condition, and update statements can be any like valid Java expressions based on what you want. And then the code inside the for loop block will be executed at least once. And this is because the initialization statement is executed before the condition is evaluated. So that's why. And then also the for loop will terminate when the condition becomes false. Okay, so can someone say what this program will do? Don't type out the exact output because it might take you a very long time. Just say in words. Look at this and I don't know. Try to think. Try to go through it mentally. So it's a for loop, right? Here we're initializing I is equal to 1. And then we're saying our condition is, okay, I must be less than or equal to 100. And then our update is that, okay, after you print it out, increment I by 1. So after anyone have an idea? I'll give you a hint real quick. Okay, so I'll tell you what it does firstly. So okay, it says I equals to 1. 1 is less than 100. Less than or equal to 100. It's less than 100, right? So it's gonna print out 1. And then it's gonna here, and then it's gonna increment it by 1. So it's gonna add 1 to it. So it's gonna be okay. So I is gonna be 2. And then it's gonna compare it again. Okay. So someone said it prints, yeah. So it's 1 to 100 because they said it is less than or equal to 100. So yeah, you're right. It will print it from 1 to 100. Okay. So this is break statement. We just took them, so I'll just briefly go over them. So break statement is executed. The loop will be terminated immediately. So break is okay, stop. We're done, basically. This is how you write it. It's just you write the word break and then a semicolon only. It's very simple. And so you can see here. So here the program stops the loop when I is equal to 4. So it's saying, okay, if I equals 4, stop. That's basically what it's saying. And then there's a continue statement. And so basically this statement, it breaks one iteration in the loop. So if I specified condition occurs and it continues with the next iteration in the loop. So for example, it's kind of like skipping. So in this example, it skips the value of 4. So here, if I is equal to 4, when I is equal to 4, continue, just skip it and then go back and print it. So yeah. Okay, next up are arrays, which are also very important. Arrays are really cool because they're a way to store a lot of values into just one variable instead of declaring multiple variables and then for each single value. So it really just shortens your code. Okay, so an array in Java is a data structure that can store a collection of data of the same type, and arrays are indexed. So it means that each element in the array, it has a unique index, like we said. So it starts off from 0, and then 1, 2, 3, and so on. And basically, they store multiple values, as you can see, in a single variable. Like I said, instead of declaring multiple ones. So it really makes your job a bit easier. And basically how it works. So there are multiple ways to declare arrays, but for today, I'll give you the basic one. And it's a really good one. So what you can do is, okay, so here you're declaring the array. Here you're writing the variable type. So the variable type here is a string. You can't really add different types or it might give you an error. So here, okay, we've got strings, so Volvo, BMW, Ford, Mazda. And so after you write the type of the variable, you put these brackets. And then you write the name of the variable. So here, of the array, sorry, of what you want to name the array. So yeah, here's declaring the array. And then you write equals, and then inside of these curly brackets, here are where you write your values. And you separate them by commas. That's how the computer knows to index them, and that, okay, these are all different values. They're not the same. They're not together or something. So yeah. And then let's actually like create an array in Java. Okay, so let's actually make this a comment, because in case I want to send it to you guys, it's a really nice example. Okay, so let's make an array of like food or something. I don't know. So string food equals and then open your curly brackets, and here you can write like rice, chicken, fries, I don't know, burger, really anything. You can write like as much as you want. And also don't forget to close it semicolon. Yeah. So basically here we created our own. We created our own array named food, right? And it's holding string values: rice, chicken, fries, burger, and they're separated by commas, obviously. So what if you want to like access an array element? And to do that, you access it by referring to its index number. Like I said many times, so the index number is for computers, or like it starts from 0. So rice, its index number would be 0, and then chicken, its index number would be 1, and then this one is 2, and then this one is 3. So let's say, okay, so here you like write the name of the array, and then you open these like square brackets, and then you want to type the index number of it. So let's say let's say you want to look at like, I don't know what you want. Let's say we want to print let's print something first before I go into changing, like declaring the things. So the out. So here, okay. Here, let's say I want to print out like chicken. So that would be index 1. So you write the name of the array, and then you open these brackets, and then you write the name of the index. That's index 1, and then it'll print it out. Chicken. But let's say you want burger, so that's 3. Burger is 3, and then rice would be 0, and so on. We can add like another one. Let's say you want to add like pasta. It's okay. You can say, okay, now we have something like we have 4. So pasta. That's really cool. And basically that's how you can like access them, through like referring to their index number. Oh yeah, and this is what I was talking about. So like changing an element in an array. So to change it, again, you refer to index numbers. That's mainly like how you can access arrays. So okay, let's say I don't want like, let's say I want to change it. I don't want like pasta in the array. So we're gonna go, okay, food, refer to its index number, because the computer just knows it by its number, right? So let's say, okay, food 4 equals, let's change it to like cake. And so you can like, to show you that it worked, let's print it out. So again, you have to write the name of the array, and then the index number of like the thing that you want to print out. So yeah, see, now that it changed, it's like cake now. It's not gonna print out pasta because we changed it over here. Yeah, so similarly in this example, you can see here, they changed Volvo to Opel, and so it now outputs Opel instead of Volvo. So yeah. Before we do this, I want to like go over something about like the array length. Like if you want to find out how many elements an array has, you basically use the length property that we learned last class. So let's say, okay, want to print out the length of the array. Want to know how many elements are in the array. So you write the name of the array, food.length. And then you run it. See, 5. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements in your array. So that's one way to know like how many there are. Okay, so now we can complete through this. So looping through an array. So you can loop through the array elements, these ones, with the for loop. And then you can use the length property to specify how many times the loop should run. For example, like in this example, it's going to output all the elements in the array. So instead of like continuously writing system.out.print cars like 0, and then you do the same for 1 and then 2 and so on. We just use a for loop, like I said, making our work more easier and our code shorter and like more efficient, basically. So okay, so here they basically declared, or like they made their array named cars, and then they started their for loop. So here for, and then here they declare the variable, so int I equals 0. And so as long as I is less than the length of the array, which I just showed you now, so this length of the length of this array is 4. So basically saying as long as I is less than 4, print, like the first, print out cars, the index of whatever this is. Let's say, okay, it starts off with 0. So print out car 0, which is Volvo. It's going to print this out. And then it's going to increment I by 1. So it's going to be, okay, 1 is less than 4. And then it's going to print out, okay, cars. And then since I is 1, so it's going to print out BMW. And so it does this so on until I is incremented to like a value longer than cars.length. In this case, it would be 5. So it would be like 5 is less than 4. Okay, that's false. We're done. And so it would have basically just printed out all the values. Oh wait, we can try this out here. So we're gonna do, let's see, for int I equals 0, and then I is less than food.length, because we want to go through these only, and then I plus plus, so we want to increment it. And so we open this, and then we want it to print out basically the element. So that's I. Oops. Okay. And yeah. So if we run this, oops, I should not have that. Okay, food.length got mixed up with something else. Okay, yeah. So as you see here, that was pretty quick. So it printed out rice, chicken, fries, burger, pasta. Basically that's how you can print all the like elements in an array. I want to do another example. Like, let's try an example of looping through an array to find the largest number in an array. This is also something really cool. So let's we have to also change this if we're going to go through numbers now. So int numbers, so 1, 2, 3, or like let's say 4, and then 10. It doesn't have to be ordered, so it's fine. 65. So it's very obvious to us humans what the answer would be for like the largest number. And then we want to create so we want to start off with saying, okay, that largest number will be the first like element in the array. But then like you'll see how later on I'm just mixing my words. Okay, how the like program will go on. And then we're gonna do we're gonna do a for loop now. So let's say int I equals to 1, because we want to start off because we already started off with largest number 0. Because okay, you'll see just a second. And so then here for our condition, we're going to do, okay, I is less than numbers dot length. I keep doing that, which is I'm not supposed to do that. Okay, I is less than numbers dot length. That's our condition. So as long as this number I is less than the length of the number of of elements in this array, then continue doing this whole loop, and then increment I by 1 each time, each like iteration. And so here we're gonna add an if statement, because we want it like to compare this element to what we supposedly so far know, what the computer supposedly so far knows as the largest like element. So in our condition, we're going to do if numbers. So here we're choosing a element in the array. We're going to use I, which is going to determine its index, or like which element we're going to use, is greater than largest, because so as you see here, we're starting by 1, because if you start by 0, it's just like not gonna make sense, and it's gonna like stop. So here we said that largest is equal to like this first element, which is 1. So numbers I is greater than largest. And then if this is true, so if this element in the array, whatever it is greater than the largest element that the computer so far knows, then we're gonna the largest number is gonna be declared again. It's gonna change. It's gonna be I. It's gonna be whatever this element was that beat it, basically. And after that, you want, so basically after the computer goes through this multiple times, we're gonna print out to the user, or like we're gonna print out largest element is largest. Okay, now let's run it, see what happens. So yeah, as you see here, it said, okay, the largest element is 65. We can change it. Let's make this 5. Let's make this like, I don't know, 6 or something, and then let's run it again. See, the largest element is 10. So that's the way of how you can find the largest element in an array. You're practically like using a for loop and an if statement inside the for loop, because you're doing comparisons. The computer is basically going through this like linearly. So okay, is 1 greater than 2? No. So 2 is now the largest number. Is 2 greater than 4? No. So now 4 is the largest number. Well, is 4 greater than 10? Yes. Sorry. 4 greater than 10? No. So now 10 is the largest number. But is 10 greater than 5? Yes. So 10 continues to be the largest number. Is 10 greater than 6? Yes. 10 is like finally the largest number as a khalas. Like they're done basically. The condition here is met, and it's like false now. So basically prints out the largest element. So like, that's basically how you can loop through them, and it's really useful and helpful later on. Okay, I'll give you guys like 2 minutes to create an array. You can, if you want, like change an element, and then just try to like, if you want to make it more complex and try what we just did, print the array using loop, like the for loop, basically. I'll send the online compiler again in case it's not working. So yeah. And then after that, we're gonna do the quick like 5 questions, the really short questions, and then we're done for today. So yeah. Minutes left. Let's go through these practice exercises that really simple. They just like review everything like we've took this whole session. Okay, so the first question, another fill in the blank. I guess I seem to really like these. But this one's pretty simple. They just want to, you want to print the second element in the array. So the second element. So we want to print BMW. How, like, what is the thing that we'd use? Okay, are you sure it's 3? Because index numbers start by 0. Yeah, right. So it's 1. So the answer is cars 1, because so this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. So yeah. Okay, then the second question. What would the output be? This is an if else statement, just like go. We said, okay, the time is equal to 12, so just plug in 12 here and like look at what do you think will happen. Yep, so you're right. The answer, so it's going to output good day because 12 is less than 18, so it's going to print out this, and basically done with the statement. So next we have, I want you to find the error. This one might be a bit tricky, I don't know. But there's one error only throughout the statement. It's a syntax error. So anyone can find it. Okay, no, it's not missing brackets. The curly brackets are still here. It's something to do with the for loop itself over here. Like, no, it's not the semicolons. Yeah, like I said, this is a tricky one. So it's inside these brackets. Like I said, there's a certain way of where you place them. So first of all, you want to declare the variable. So I'll just say the answer right now. So yeah, here they mixed up these two. They did the condition first before declaring the variable. So first of all, you're supposed to declare the variable, and then after that, you say the condition, because that's basically how the for loop goes, because it basically executes this one first. So that was the error here. It was a tricky question, I know, but hopefully you'll remember this later on, that first you have to declare the variable, then you have to do the condition, and then the update. It's in a certain order, so yeah. Okay, question 4. What method would you use to read a double? So you know how we did, for scanner, there's something to do with scanner usually. You know how we did, okay, to read some input, we do dot next line and then the brackets. What would you do to read a double? What if the user entered a double? What would you type in? Dot next what? Yep. So that's right. The answer is dot next double. Don't forget the parentheses here. They're essential for the syntax and stuff. So yeah, for these methods, it's kind of pretty easy. It's just based off what the name of the variable is, or what they're typing in. Except for string, you don't write string. You just write line next dot next line. So yeah. This is the last one. Another filling in the blanks. So basically, just use the do while loop to print I as long as I is less than 6. It's really easy. Yeah. Basically, first of all, you're doing a do loop, the do, and then here's the while. So what are we missing? Yep, it's do while. Pretty simple. Okay, so this is the homework. It's 3 questions. There. We've gone through a bit of this today. I just added an extra thing. But hopefully you guys will be able to do them before our next session. They're gonna really help you understand all these concepts, because we took so many new information in just around 2 hours. And so doing these will definitely help you. I'll send them also in the WhatsApp group. But if you need any help, just text me and I'll help you. So yeah, that's it for our second session. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you had a good time and you learned a lot. And yeah.